Week 11 Monday Night Football features the Dallas Cowboys at the Las Vegas Raiders. And if you are looking for the best bet for this thing, you've come to the right place. The Raiders, 3.5-point home dogs here. High total of 50.5 for one of the worst offenses in the league against one of the worst defenses. A resistible force versus a movable object in this football game. And we'll break it all down for you. Ninja here with Tony Farmer. Hit that thumbs up button. Hit that subscribe button if you could be so kind. Got to start here, Tony, with the awful situation in Dallas. Obviously, the death of Marshawn Kneeland looms large over this Cowboys team, over this game. Our thoughts go out to the team, the organization, his family, his friends. When something like this happens, it will have a profound impact. So how does this factor into previewing this matchup, Tony? Like, Dallas could certainly use this as something to rally behind, and play for their teammate the rest of the way. It's just so unquantifiable. So how do you approach it?
Yeah, certainly a terrible situation. I want to echo your sentiments. Our thoughts go out to the family of Marshawn Kneeland. From a football perspective, I could see this going either way. I'm not sure what the mood is like in the Cowboys locker room. From a bettor's perspective, maybe you live bet it. Maybe you wait and see how the Cowboys look on their first couple drives, because I couldn't blame them for sleepwalking through this game after what they've been through this week. Couldn't blame them one bit. I mean, the emotions of not just a death, but a suicide, I mean, that can often come with additional emotions. So, or we could see them rally around this, right? We've seen teams do that in the past in the NFL, whether it be the Saints after Hurricane Katrina, Damar Hamlin's almost dying, and then the Bills getting the big win after that situation. So these things do have a way of sort of solidifying a locker room. So that could happen as well, but maybe you just live bet this, see how the Cowboys look on their first couple possessions.
Yeah, good call. And certainly probably from, a player's perspective for the Dallas Cowboys, maybe a welcome distraction this Monday Night Football game could be to get them out of, what they are going through as a collective. The other side of the football here, Tony, the status of Geno Smith, a bit up in the air as of the time of this recording. And the Raiders don't practice actually until Thursday. So questionable with the quad contusion. He did do walk-arounds, I believe, on the Monday, and he looked, quote, okay. I personally don't know if it actually matters a whole lot, as he's been one of the worst quarterbacks in the league this season. So a small outside possibility we could get a Kenny Pickett game here. So in your opinion, is there a discernible difference between these two guys right now? Like, would odds makers change, a move from Geno to Kenny Pickett here?
Not really. I don't think there's much of a difference, but I do think Geno Smith knows his job is hanging on by a thread. We saw that last week when he was banged up. He could barely walk, but he was staying in the game. That looked like a desperate man trying to keep his job, didn't it? It looked like he knew that if Kenny Pickett got on the field and led the Raiders to a win in that game, he may not see the field again this season, because like you said, he struggled. He's got 11 touchdowns and 12 interceptions on the season. Kenny Pickett, for what it's worth in his career, 15 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. So I don't know that Kenny Pickett is necessarily a more talented quarterback than Geno Smith, but you don't have to be a more talented quarterback to kind of spark an offense. We've seen that this year, whether it be Jacoby Brissett in Arizona or even Mac Jones in San Francisco. Sometimes these offenses look better when the backups come in, and I think Geno Smith knows he better get his butt on the field, because if Kenny Pickett makes a start and doesn't even have to be good, looks better than he has, he may not see the field again.
Yeah, a couple good examples there. And even when you look at Cincinnati, who brought in a guy from within the AFC North, and they're still a very flawed team, but that offense looks okay with a guy that has a big arm and has some valuable targets there in that wide receiver room on that team. Let me ask you this. Did the Dallas Cowboys additions on the defensive side of things do anything for your confidence in this unit? Obviously, Quinnen Williams, the biggest addition, the sort of the centerpiece of what they brought in for that unit. They also bring in Logan Wilson, the linebacker, as well. But did those moves do anything to boost your belief in what has been a very lackluster Cowboys defense?
They did. It helps a lot. They were kind of weird moves, though, right? Because when you look at this Cowboys defense, it's their secondary. That's the biggest area of concern. And then instead of addressing that, they bring in a linebacker and a defensive lineman. But I suppose they're thinking that that can have sort of an indirect benefit on the secondary when you're getting a little bit more pressure on the quarterback. But in addition to the two trades that you mentioned, they're also getting two guys back. that are kind of under the radar here. DeMarvion Overshawn, linebacker, and Siobhan Ravel. Third-round rookie for Ravel. First-round talent before he had injury issues. So he's now coming in. Maybe he can help solidify this secondary. Both of these guys are questionable for this game, but it's looking like they could be making their first starts of the season for Dallas. And Overshawn had 5 sacks last year. PFF pass rush grade of 78.9, 11th best among linebackers last year. So you could look at it as the Cowboys are kind of getting 4 guys back this week. In terms of the two guys they traded for and these 2 guys making their first start. So absolutely, I think it can move the needle. And this Cowboys team, there's never been a concern about their offense.
Yeah,
they're great on the offensive side of the ball. We know that. So if their defense can just be average, it suddenly makes the Cowboys a much, much better team.
The Raiders offense was, supposed to have shown improvement after the additions, of Geno Smith. They draft Ashton Genty, who was such a beast in college football last season. But ultimately, it's one of the worst offenses in the NFL. And, apart from Brock Bowers, who's been sort of in and out, are there any names on this Raiders offense that would be worth a look, in prop markets? They traded Jacoby Myers, so he's out of the picture now. You'd think maybe that opens the door for a Trey Tucker or something like that. Ashton Genty, sub 4 yards per carry, just the 4 touchdowns so far. Sort of okay, but just overwhelming. But if you're looking up and down this Raiders offense, is there any names that jump out for you that might be worth a sprinkle in prop markets?
Yeah, how about Tyler Lockett as a nice buy low candidate, especially if Geno starts? These guys have a good rapport going back to their days in Seattle. Lockett had his best game of the season last week, 5 catches on 6 targets for 44 yards. He's 33 years old. He knows this is he's on a 1-year contract. So if he wants another contract in the NFL, it's do or die. So he's highly motivated at this point. And if you go over to oddshark.com and check out the team defensive report, it'll show you how every defense does against every position in the NFL, wide receiver, running back, and tight end at least. And Dallas is just awful against wide receivers. They give up a league worst 1.8 touchdowns per game to the wide receiver position and 170.6 yards per game to wide receivers. That's 3rd worst in the NFL. So he's got an opportunity here, and I think Lockett's worth a look in prop markets.
Yeah, and looks like a guy, at least, in the short past here that we've seen him, it looks like a guy that is getting wide receiver 1 targets and opportunities. So definitely a name to keep your eye on ahead of this one on Monday night. And we'll get your pick in a moment. But folks, you can get Prop Professor for 50% off for the first month. This app drops hundreds of plus EV bets every single day, and it gives you a real shot at finding long-term profit. Raiders money line plus 130 at BetMGM, 2.8% in the first quarter plus EV, 2.8% plus EV, for that one. Under 50.5 at minus 110. 2.6% plus EV at BetMGM as well. Just a sample of what Prop Professor offers its users. You can sort through plays across the NFL, college football, and much more. You get tools for arbitrage betting. It's got a fantasy optimizer, and it's easily the best bang for buck app on the market compared to some of its competition. You can use the promo code OddShark50 at checkout. And remember, you can get 50% off for that first month. Tony, let's get to your pick here. We talked about the odds a little bit. It is Raiders plus 3.5 at home for this one. The total is high, 50.5 for this one. Either side of that, minus 110. What are you looking at from a betting perspective here?
I've got a player prop for you. I talked about Tyler Lockett and how vulnerable this Cowboys defense is to wide receivers. How about Lockett anytime touchdown plus 450 over at Bet365? You're getting a nice number here because he hasn't scored a touchdown yet this season. But as we're recording this on Wednesday, it's as low as plus 320 or plus 340 at other books like Caesars and DraftKings. So that plus 450 at Bet365 is looking juicy. And for what it's worth, that failed 2-point conversion 2 weeks ago in overtime from the arm of Geno Smith was intended for a wide open Tyler Lockett in the end zone before it was batted down at the line of scrimmage. So that's a little clue, I think, that Tyler Lockett is in this team's game plan when they get it around the goal line.